Let's talk about how to combat junk food. 52% of the American adult diet is ultra-processed food, and over 70% of the children's diet is ultra-processed food. It is the enemy, and people argue a lot on social media about plants versus meat, vegan versus carnivore, keto versus Mediterranean diet, and that's really not the subject. The subject is, how do you get off junk food? So here's the answer. There's a thing called the Bliss point. This was figured out back in the 1970s, I think. And I'm going to show you what the Bliss point is and how you are manipulated by the food scientists who work at the food manufacturing companies, and they know how to keep you eating. Okay, let's talk about this Bliss point, starting with sodium. Then we'll talk about sugar, fat, carbs, but the key is protein. So you're going to see a bell-shaped curve here along with the sugar, for example. So let me explain this. Right below this chart, it says, in the middle of the chart, we have a Bliss point for sodium at 2.9 grams per 2,000 calories, which aligns with the maximum energy intake. However, notice how we eat less if our sodium concentration is above or below the Bliss point. So here's the Bliss point, right at the top of this bell curve, right above my head. Sodium is the x-axis right here, and it's measured in milligrams per 2,000 calories. So if you're eating like a 2,000 calorie diet, that's over here. Energies, calories per day. So here is 2.9 grams of sodium right there. And when you go above that, you're satisfied. When you're below it, you're craving. And that's what that says right there. So, but when you're right in the middle, that's where your body's happy. And so food manufacturers will make a food or a diet plan, a meal, are based on actually the Bliss point. So people end up eating this much sodium per day because your body's happy there. Your dopamine is happy there. This is not about being satisfied. It's about using food as a drug. Now the key is the more sodium that you eat. So now we're talking down below me all the way over here. Let's say you're eating 6 grams of sodium per day. Your calories, which is the gray line, your calories go down. Now we're going to talk about sugar and energy. This is the Bliss point right here at the top of this arc, and that's about 2,200 calories per day. And then the amount of sugar below me here is about 24% of the calories are from sugar. 24% of the total calories of the day are from sugar. That's your Bliss point. That's where your body's really happy. Beyond that, if we go this way, you're satisfied. And on the other side, you're craving. So over here, it says craving. Okay, so you want to come out of the craving. Every day, you don't want to be craving, right? So you eat a certain amount of sugar, and you're like, oh, okay, now I'm good. And then you eat less sugar because you're satisfied. Let's do another one. This is fat. Here's the Bliss point. Now down here it says about 34% calories of fat per meal or per food or per day is the Bliss point. And when you're below that much percentage of fat per 2,000 calories, you're craving it. And if you're above the Bliss point, then you're satisfied of the fat and you're not hungry for it anymore. So if you're going to make a junk food, you're going to have this much fat, the Bliss point of fat, you're going to have the Bliss point of sugar, you're going to have the Bliss point of sodium. So you combine all that together, that's your recipe for junk food, and people just keep eating it because that food they're eating is blissful. It makes them happy. That's the science behind junk food. And you can see it's true here for carbs, okay, related to sugar. And the Bliss point is what, 47% right below me here. And if you're below that, if your food is like only 20% carbs, then you'll be craving it. You'll be all the way over here. And if your food is, I don't know, let me say 80% carbs, then you're over here and you're satisfied. And so you're not going to be eating it here, but you will be eating it here because you crave it. And then you're right here, you're super happy. You're in between craving and satisfied. You just keep eating when your food is at 47% carbs. Okay, now we haven't talked about protein yet. Protein, That's your weapon to get you off of the junk food. So let me show you that. So protein is unique. The bliss point is very low. It's only about 14% of the calories of the meal or the food or the day. Only 14% is the bliss point. So you have 2 bites of a really nice red juicy steak, just 2 bites, and you're like, oh, I feel so much better. But yet you still have a 16-ounce steak sitting in front of you. You can reach for a soda with a lot of sugar and then still have dessert and have a salad and have bread. You can keep eating those foods because their bliss point is different. But 2 bites of a red steak, your bliss point is much lower, and you end up not eating enough meat or protein. So how do you combat the junk food? You eat more protein. So notice here, the bliss point goes down, 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 and your satiety point is right here at 45% of the calories of your diet should be protein, or 45% of that food or of the meal, whatever unit, measurement of food that you want to talk about, it should be 45% protein. The optimal nutrient intake right here is at 40% protein, and you're very satisfied at 51%. So your satiety comes into play very soon right here, and then as you eat more and more protein, you continue to be satisfied. This is the trick. You think you're satisfied during this whole, 14% up to 50%, you feel satisfied. But you need to keep eating more because then your total satiety score is much better here, and you end up eating less carbs, fat, sugar, and sodium. So I hope you understand that. Here's you're craving some meat right here above me. So the more protein you eat, this red line is total calories for the day right here, and your total calories go down. Right over here it says energy, parentheses, calories per day. If you want to eat less calories per day, eat protein, and your calories right here go down, down, down.
Is rabbit starvation a real thing?
Yeah, so you can't just live off protein, and rabbits are almost just protein. I tell a rabbit, eat the innards and the brain and the eyes, and then everything else is just protein, and so it takes more calories to process that protein than you're getting from it without the fat. I had a lot of rabbits. In the first 20 days, I had 28 rabbits or something, but I was losing weight at exactly the same speed as everybody else that didn't have anything. So I was wondering, if I'm catching a ton of rabbits, I wonder if I can last, 6 months on rabbits? But no, you just starve as fast as everybody else.
So you need fat to survive.
And you'll notice when the wolverine came or when animals came, they would eat the skin off of the fish, they would eat the eyes. You can kind of observe nature and see what they're eating and know where the...
I made a short video with that clip, and people were saying, well, how do I get rabbit? It's not about eating rabbits. It's about eating a very low-fat, low-carb meal and diet, and rabbit protein is very low in fat. There's other foods that are very low in fat and high in protein, whereas beef is now 40 to 60% fat, and buffalo is like 4% fat, depending on the season. So our domesticated beef supply and other animals have a lot more fat in them than the wild game that our ancestors used to eat 100 years ago or more. So I'm not encouraging people to just go out and start eating rabbits. I'm saying eat lean meat, low fat and low carb, to lose weight. So a guy like me, I need to keep the fat in my diet so I can keep my energy up. But if you're storing a lot of fat and you're walking around with a lot of fat on your midsection, then stop eating the fat. Let your body burn off the fat you've been storing and just eat lean protein. Now, protein should have no calories attached to it. Somewhere along the way, people said that 1 gram of protein is 4 calories. It's not 4 calories. It should be 0 calories. The calories only come from fat and carbs. I've shown this graphic before, but now it's worth seeing again. The blue section, which is right here, shows a higher percentage of protein in a day related to carbs and fat. And then the red section over here, this is less protein. And if you drop down, it's like 10% of the day's calories are from protein. And then the blue section is about 40% of the day's calories from protein. The yellow section over here in the square is the Mediterranean diet. And then this A over here is the Atkins diet. The whole point is the Mediterranean diet is like low protein, high carb. And then the Atkins diet over here is higher protein, higher fat, low carb. But the most important factor is the protein. So the people that ate in the blue section, they ended up eating less calories, 1,075 calories per day. The people that ate the least amount of protein ended up eating more calories, 2,750 calories per day. So the most important thing you do is eat protein. And if you want to eat junk food, you eat it at the end of the day after you've consumed your goal of protein per day. So if you weigh 200 pounds and you want to stay there, eat 200 grams of protein per day. It's so much easier to not eat junk food when you've eaten 200 grams of protein in a day. So if you're going to really eat ice cream for some celebration, you have to eat it after you've consumed 200 grams of protein. Let's say you weigh 300 pounds and you want to lose weight and you want to get down to 175. Then your goal is 175 grams of protein per day. This information on the Bliss Point is by this brilliant man named Marty Kendall. Here's his website, optimizingnutrition.com. And you can search Bliss Point on his website. Here's the beginning of his article. It says, The Bliss Point, How Food Scientists Create Irresistible Snacks. And here's the guy that figured out the Bliss Point. Now, there are people that will say that protein causes cancer or heart disease. Completely not true. They'll say that animal protein causes cancer or heart disease. Again, completely not true. There's a lot of clinical experiments to test that, and they say that it does not cause cancer or heart disease or other conditions like that. There are lots of observational studies that show that animal foods cause whatever cancer, heart disease, but that's observational studies. Those are garbage. They belong in the trash. Also, the clinical trials show that red meat does not cause heart disease or cancer. So whenever you hear that animal fat or protein or red meat or whatever animal food causes heart disease or cancer, just know that it's not true, because the clinical studies show that. And then people will show you epidemiological or observational studies and say, where's the control group? There's no control group. Regarding health, there's more to it. Once you got your diet down, that is step 1 in the 7-step blueprint to optimal health. The other steps include preparation for detox and getting rid of parasites and all these other steps. So if you want our help, you can contact the office. I'll put the phone number right here.